Hello everyone, and welcome to the Persons with Disabilities Eligibility and Benefits webinar. We are Ask an Advocate, which is a website-based project created to help clients and service providers find information and resources about income assistance, disability, tenancy, and other income supports. Please remember that the information provided in this webinar will be applicable in British Columbia only. The Person with Disabilities program is available through the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, and in this webinar, we will simply refer to them as the Ministry. We will also refer to persons with disabilities as simply PWD throughout the webinar. For more information on how to complete the application for PWD, please watch our webinar on Persons with Disabilities application or visit our website askanadvocate.ca. Please keep in mind that the numbers discussed throughout this webinar are from the year 2020. Depending on when you are watching this, the Ministry may have made changes since the time this video was created. Please check the description of this video and we'll be sure to keep updated links of any changes that may apply to this webinar. In this webinar, we will briefly discuss an overview of the PWD program, eligibility criteria, how living arrangements affect eligibility, the application process, income and assets, medical benefits available through the Ministry, other benefits available, and lastly, how to appeal the Ministry's decision. This webinar can be useful for anyone looking to apply for PWD designation, advocates, medical professionals, social workers, or any other service provider assisting their client. In this section, we will go over the overview of the program. The purpose of the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction is to help individuals living in British Columbia achieve financial independence by providing a system of supports through the BC Employment and Assistance Program. Their main responsibilities include providing income and disability assistance to those in need, supplying employment programs and services to those who are unemployed or underemployed, supporting community living services that help families with individuals suffering from developmental disabilities develop connections and inclusion within their community, as well as supporting social innovation and entrepreneurship to improve communities in British Columbia. There are two legislative authorities that govern the BC Employment and Assistance Program. The first one is the Employment and Assistance Act and Regulation, which governs provision of income assistance, hardship assistance, and supplements. The second one is the Employment and Assistance for Persons with Disabilities Act and Regulation, which governs provision of disability assistance, hardship assistance, and supplement. For more information on the Ministry's regulations, please visit their website by clicking on the link in the description below. The Income Assistance Program is delivered by the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction. There are three categories to the Income Assistance Programs, which are regular income assistance, persons with persistent multiple barriers, and persons with disabilities. Regular income assistance is for those who are employable. Persons with persistent multiple barriers is for individuals with long-term barriers to employment. And persons with disabilities is available to individuals with long-term disabilities that affect daily living activities. The three categories of income assistance all have different benefits and exemptions. For regular income assistance, the maximum benefit that a single person may be eligible for is $760, while the maximum benefit on PWD is $1,183.42. Similarly, a single person on regular income assistance is allowed to have a maximum asset of $5,000, whereas a single person on PWD is allowed to have maximum asset of $100,000. Feel free to pause the video now and take a few minutes to go over the table shown on the screen. For more information on income assistance or persons with persistent multiple barriers, please watch our other webinars or visit our website. In this section, we will go over the eligibility for PWD. To qualify for the Persons with Disabilities designation, the applicant must demonstrate that they meet its financial eligibility and the definition of disability. To be financially eligible for PWD, the family unit's net income must not equal or exceed the amount of assistance that would be payable to them. For example, the maximum amount of assistance that would be payable to a single person on PWD is $1,183.42 per month. However, if the applicant is already earning $2,000 per month, They would not be eligible for PWD since their income is already exceeding the monthly benefit. The table shown on the screen is the amount that would be payable to applicants depending on their family composition. For example, an applicant who is a single parent of one child would be eligible for a maximum benefit of $1,519.08, out of which $570 is given to cover their shelter costs and the rest is for support. It is important to remember that an applicant will only receive the shelter portion of their assistance if they can show that they are currently paying for shelter. This can be shown by giving the ministry a copy of their tenancy agreement, rental receipts, or anything else that shows a rental or shelter agreement. Feel free to pause the video now and take a few minutes to go over the table shown on screen. If you would like a copy of the table, click the link in the description below. In addition to the financial eligibility, the applicant must also meet the definition of disability. To be eligible for PWD, the applicant must meet all of the following criteria. The applicant must be at least 18 years old. The applicant must have severe mental and/or physical impairments. A doctor or nurse practitioner has confirmed that the applicant's impairment will likely continue for 2 or more years. The applicant is significantly restricted in performing daily living activities. And lastly, the applicant requires significant help to manage daily living activities from another person, animal, or device. When completing the PWD application, the individual will need to describe the severity of their disability in terms of the extent and frequency that their daily living activities are restricted, as well as the type of assistance needed. When describing an applicant's restrictions with daily living activities, the applicant should mention whether the restrictions are periodic or continuous. Periodic means that the applicant's symptoms come and go, but significant help is needed at times to perform daily living activities. Continuous means that the illness and required assistance is ongoing, whether it is daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or even monthly. The applicant should also consider how the activities are restricted. That is, how slowly is the activity getting done? Does the activity need to be modified, or are tasks neglected due to difficulty? There are other eligibility criteria that a PWD applicant must meet, and some of these are citizenship, family composition, income, assets, residency, and more. We will go over some of these eligibility criteria later in this webinar. You may be eligible for PWD as a student. It is important that the applicant reports their student funding to the ministry, as this may affect their eligibility. Funding from student financial assistance is exempt up to the sum of a student's education and daycare costs. Any portion provided for living costs will be deducted from your PWD assistance. Other student funding may be fully exempt, and for a full list, please visit the ministry website. For funding that includes a portion for living allowance, the living cost is deducted dollar for dollar from their PWD assistance check. There are other student fundings that may be exempt, and the applicant should consult the ministry's website for more information. It is important that the applicant reports their student funding to the ministry, as this may potentially affect their eligibility. If an applicant is non-compliant with the ministry's requirements, that is, that the applicant doesn't provide information that is required or complete appropriate forms, the ministry can impose sanctions on them. Sanctions may result in their assistance being reduced or becoming ineligible. Some reasons for the ministry to impose sanction on the applicant are failure to provide information on verification, inaccurate or incomplete reporting, failure to meet employment-related obligations or to comply with an employment plan, not accepting income or assets or disposing of assets, not providing a monthly report when required, and failure to attend eligibility audit. In this section, we will go over how living arrangements may affect eligibility. A family unit is defined as an applicant and his or her dependents. The dependent can be the applicant's dependent child or the applicant's spouse. The ministry considers two people to be spouses if they are married, declare they are in a marriage-like relationship, or they meet all of the following criteria. They have resided together for at least 12 consecutive months. For example, they are on the same tenancy agreement. They demonstrate financial dependence. For example, they share the same bank account, and they demonstrate social and familial interdependence. For example, they are each other's emergency contact. If the applicant is living with someone else but not in a marriage like relationship, there are multiple ways they can prove they are roommates and prevent the ministry from suspicions of fraud. For example, the roommates could have separate tenancy agreements, pay rent directly or separately to the landlord, have separate bedrooms, have a written agreement to split utilities costs, and do not get joint bank accounts or credit cards, combine their incomes, pay each other's bills, or insure each other's vehicles. When an applicant lives in a room and board situation, the ministry may issue the smaller portion of the actual cost of the room and board and a specified monthly support allowance, or the sum of the applicable shelter and support allowances for the family unit size. The amount of the comfort allowance is $127 per person with the PWD status and $40 per child. If you or your adult family member doesn't have the PWD designation, they would be eligible for a comfort allowance of $60. For a room and board example, a single person on PWD is paying $700 in room and board. They would receive the lesser of the following: either $700 as room and board and a comfort allowance of $127, which equals $827, or the maximum amount for a single person on PWD, which is $1,183.42. In this scenario, the client would only receive $827 per month since it is the lesser of the two amounts. In this section, we will briefly go over the application for PWD. There are two steps for applying for PWD. The first step is to demonstrate that the applicant meets the financial eligibility. If the applicant is already a client of the ministry, they can either call the ministry or go to any ministry office and request a PWD application. If the applicant is not already on ministry assistance, to get a PWD application, the applicant must first apply through the My Self-Serve online application. If the applicant is unable to complete the online application, they can visit the ministry office or call the ministry at 1-866-866-0800. Please note that the PWD application is not available online, and one will be assigned to an applicant upon request. Additionally, an applicant may start the application process at the age of 17 and a half. The second step for applying for PWD is to complete the PWD booklet with the support of a doctor or nurse practitioner. It may be helpful to provide medical evidence that the disability criteria is met, such as doctor's notes, x-ray reports, copies of medications, prescriptions, or more. The PWD application is in the form of a booklet about 24 pages long and is split into 3 sections. Section 1 is the client information and needs to be completed by the applicant. Section 2 is the medical report, and this needs to be completed by a doctor or nurse practitioner. This section will provide information about the applicant's physical and/or mental impairments and how they affect the applicant's daily living activities. Section 3 is the assessor report, and this needs to be completed by a doctor, nurse practitioner, or prescribed professional. This section will further explain the applicant's restrictions with daily living activities. A prescribed professional can be a medical practitioner, a nurse practitioner, a registered psychologist, a registered nurse, a chiropractor, a psychiatric nurse, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, or a social worker. On the last page of the booklet, there is a checklist which is a list of questions to ensure that the applicant has completed the application correctly. The checklist also asks whether the applicant wishes to be notified when the ministry's health assistance branch has received the application. The applicant will have to check off the box corresponding to this question if they wish to be notified. It is helpful to check off this box to keep track of the application and to make sure that it isn't lost. It may be helpful to add any additional relevant information to the application, such as copies of medical reports, prescriptions, and more. The Ministry's Health Assistance Branch has a service standard of 45 business days to process PWD applications, but sometimes it can take up to 4 months. The prescribed class PWD application is a simplified 2-page long application that an applicant can complete if they are already receiving benefits from one of the following programs: Community Living BC, the Ministry of Children and Family Development at Home program, BC Pharmacare Plan P Palliative Care Benefits, or Canada Pension Plan Disability. This form doesn't require a doctor's opinion, but simply the applicant's signature to allow the ministry to confirm whether they are currently receiving the benefits or not. This form can be downloaded while the applicant is creating their MySelf-Serve account or by calling the ministry at 1-866-866-0800. When an applicant is approved for PWD, the ministry will notify them by mail of the approval. However, the client will only start receiving benefits the month after the month of approval. For example, if the letter of approval is dated August 25th, the PWD benefits will begin on September 1st. Generally, the ministry issues assistance checks around the 4th week of each month. Going back to the example mentioned in the previous slide, if the client is approved on August 25th, their benefits will not start until September 1st. However, a check would have already been issued at that time. The applicant will then need to contact the ministry to let them know about their approval and have a check mailed to them. The applicant was previously receiving regular income assistance benefits. They will need to request an adjustment check, which is the difference between the regular income assistance and PWD assistance that the applicant is now entitled to. There are a few more important things to remember when applying for PWD. Some of these are: eligibility is not based on employability. The applicant does not have to pay for the application to be completed, as the government will pay the medical practitioner and the assessor directly. The applicant also doesn't have to pay for the application to be mailed because there is a stamped envelope attached to the middle of the application booklet. Once approved for PWD, recipients are still required to apply for other sources of income they may be eligible for. For example, the ministry may require the recipient to apply for the Canada Pension Plan Disability benefits to see if they are eligible for the program. If a recipient will be out of the province for 30 consecutive days, their PWD benefits will be discontinued unless they request prior approval from the ministry. If the benefits get cut off, their benefits may be reinstated when they return by completing the income assistance application on MySelf-Serve. It is important to remember that the PWD designation is not permanent and can be rescinded by the ministry in certain circumstances. For information on how to complete the PWD application, please watch our webinar on PWD application or click on the link in the description below. In this section, we will go over how income and assets affect eligibility. When an applicant or recipient of PWD declares that they are receiving income from other sources, the income will be classified as either earned or unearned income. Earned income can be one of the following: money received from working, pension plans that are refunded, money received from providing room and board, and money received from providing rent at the applicant's residence. Unearned income is any income that is not earned. Some examples of unearned income are money, annuities, stocks and bonds, tax refunds, employment insurance, old age security, guaranteed income supplement and Canada Pension Plan, trust or inheritance, and more. For a complete list of unearned income, please refer to the ministry's website. Some earned and unearned income are exempt and do not affect an applicant's or recipient's eligibility. Some examples of exempt income are GST, gifts, child tax benefit, child support, annual earnings exemption, and much more. For a complete list of exempt income, please refer to the ministry's website. Recipients of PWD can still work while receiving benefits. However, they have a limit on the amount they may earn before money is deducted from their monthly benefits. This is called an annual earnings exemption, and this is applicable to a calendar year. So for example, January 1st to December 31st. The annual earning exemption can only be applied to qualifying income. For example, a single person between the age of 18 to 64 has an annual earning exemption limit of $12,000. If at any time between January 1st to December 31st, the recipient starts earning more than that $12,000, the additional amount they earn will be deducted dollar for dollar from their benefits check. The annual earning exemption only applies to qualifying income, which is the following types of income: earned income, meaning money received from working, pension plan contributions that are refunded, money received from providing room and board at the applicant's residence, money received from renting rooms at the applicant's residence, and unearned income that is WCB temporary wage loss replacement benefits under Section 29 and 30 of the Act. If a new applicant is approved for PWD, they must serve a 1-month waiting period before they can use their annual earnings exemption. The annual earning exemption runs from January 1st to December 31st, and the income can be earned at any month of the year. When a recipient's family unit reaches 75% of their annual earning exemption, the ministry should send them a letter informing them of the situation. Once the family unit exceeds their maximum earning exemption, all earnings received in that calendar year will be deducted dollar for dollar from their assistance check. However, if the earnings are more than their PWD benefits rate, their file may turn into a medical services only file. That means that the family unit will no longer receive financial assistance, but will keep their medical benefits and transportation supplement or bus pass. One of the eligibility criteria for PWD is that an applicant must be below their asset limit for their family unit. An asset is defined as equity in property, investments, cash, and more. The table on the screen shows the asset limit for PWD based on a family unit. For example, a single person is allowed to have assets up to $100,000 without their eligibility being affected. Feel free to pause the video and take a few minutes to familiarize yourself with the table. There are some assets that are considered exempt and do not affect an applicant's eligibility. Some of these assets are clothing and necessary household equipment, one vehicle used for day-to-day transportation needs, family unit's place of residence, tax refund, child tax credit, Canada Child Benefit, and more. For a full list of assets, please refer to the ministry's website. If an applicant or recipient of PWD has assets above their limit, they can put the asset in a trust so that it doesn't affect their eligibility. A trust is a legal agreement drawn up by a lawyer or notary that is managed by a trustee on behalf of the individual. There are specific requirements that must be met for the ministry to recognize the trust account, such as how the money in the trust will be used. The applicant must demonstrate that the trust will be used for disability-related costs. There are two types of trusts, which are discretionary and non-discretionary trust. Discretionary trust means that the PWD recipient will be the beneficiary and will decide on how much money is used. There is no limit on how much money can be put in a discretionary trust. Non-discretionary trust means that the PWD recipient has limited ability to decide on how the money in the account will be used. For a non-discretionary trust, there is a limit of a maximum $200,000 that can be deposited into the account. A monthly report, or a stub, is a form that all PWD recipients need to complete and submit by the 5th of the month if there are changes to their living or financial situation. Some of the things that should be reported on the monthly report are the recipient's income, assets, shelter information, dependents, employments, or other benefits. The changes that are reported on the form are for the previous month. For example, if a PWD recipient's income changed within the month of August, they need to report it by the 5th of September. Please note, though, that if there are no changes within a month, the PWD recipient is not required to complete the monthly report. In this section, we will go over the medical benefits available for those on PWD. There are certain medical benefits that are available for income assistance applicants and recipients. These are Medical Service Plan for IA recipients and their families under Plan C, Pharmacare for medication coverage. For the medications that are not covered, doctors may be able to request special authority for additional coverage. Plan G is also available for those living with mental illness. The applicant must be registered with a mental health service center and requires psychiatric medication. Some of the medical benefits that are available for PWD recipients are dental coverage, basic medical, glasses, prescription drugs, medical therapies, disposable medical or surgical supplies, medical equipment and devices, transportation funding to medical appointments, and orthotics and bracing. For more detail, please visit the Employment and Assistance for Persons with Disabilities and Regulations Schedule C. There are certain diet supplements that are available to PWD recipients as a result of their medical conditions. The table on the screen shows a list of diet supplements that are available and the maximum amount the ministry may pay for them. If a recipient is eligible for more than one supplement, they would only receive the higher amount. Feel free to pause the video now and take a few minutes to go over the table. It is also important to remember while requesting diet supplements, the PWD recipient should provide a medical note along with their request. The monthly nutritional supplement are available to those with the PWD designation only. This supplement is an additional $165 per month on top of one's PWD check that may be provided to help pay for vitamins, minerals, and nutritional supplements. To be eligible for the monthly nutritional supplement, the PWD recipient must provide a medical note from their medical practitioner and have a chronic and progressive deteriorating condition resulting in at least two of the following: significant deterioration of a vital organ, immune suppression, moderate to severe, malnutrition, significant muscle mass loss, significant neurological deterioration, significant weight loss, or underweight status. The medical services only, or MSO, status can be given to a PWD recipient who becomes no longer eligible for financial assistance due to their income being in excess. If the recipient's income exceeds the annual earning exemption and they continue to earn more than their benefits rate, their PWD file will turn into a MSO file until their annual earning exemption is reset in the next calendar year. MSO can also occur when a PWD recipient turns 65 years old and no longer qualifies for disability assistance, but is eligible for a federal benefit such as guaranteed income supplement. A PWD recipient under MSO may be eligible for doctor visits, prescription coverage, and certain medical and dental benefits. The individual may be eligible for MSO for as long as they are low income. We will now go over some of the other benefits that a PWD applicant may be eligible for. The ministry offers recipients access to general supplements, and some examples of these supplements are camp fees, Christmas, clothing, crisis, family bonus, identification, lost or stolen check, security and pet deposit, and prenatal. For a detailed list of the supplements, please refer to the ministry's website. To qualify for a crisis supplement, the applicant must meet all of the following requirements. The crisis is unexpected cost, or the applicant needs to purchase an item unexpectedly. The applicant doesn't have money available to pay for the item. The item cannot be obtained from other sources, and the item is needed right away. In addition to the requirements above, the applicant must demonstrate that the need is significant to the extent that not receiving it will lead to danger of their physical health or removal of a child. There are three types of crisis supplements: the food crisis supplement, and the ministry may be able to issue up to $40 per person per month; the clothing crisis supplement, and the ministry may be able to issue $100 per person per year. However, the ministry can only issue a maximum of $400 per year for a family unit, regardless of how many family members there are. And lastly, there is the shelter crisis supplement, and the ministry may be able to issue an amount up to the maximum combined shelter and support rates, plus the following actual amounts that the family unit is eligible to receive: shared parenting assistance, prenatal shelter supplement, CIC temp absence assistance, and deceased adjustment supplement. It is important to remember that the crisis supplements do not have to be paid back to the ministry. The ministry may be able to help an income assistance recipient secure housing by paying their security deposit, also known as the damage deposit, if the tenancy is covered by the Residential Tenancy Act or is a co-op housing. To request the deposit, the individual must complete an intent to rent form and submit it to the ministry. There is no maximum number of security deposits that can be issued at a time. However, they must be paid back to the ministry in the form of $20 deductions on each assistance check. It is important to remember that a security deposit cannot exceed more than half a month's rent. The ministry may be able to issue pet security deposits if the tenancy is covered by the Residential Tenancy Act or is a co-op housing. To request the pet deposit, the individuals must complete an intent to rent form and submit it to the ministry. There is no maximum number of pet deposits that can be issued at a time. If an applicant has already moved to a residence, they can request the pet deposit with the landlord's approval. Additionally, a pet security deposit cannot exceed more than half a month's rent, and the applicant must agree to a repayment plan of $20 per month. If a security and pet deposit are requested at the same time, the repayment amount will still be $20 per month. Once an applicant is approved for PWD, they become eligible for a transportation supplement, which is either a monthly bus pass or an additional $52 added to their disability assistance check to cover transportation-related costs. An individual can switch back and forth between the bus pass and the extra $52 by notifying the ministry by the 5th of each month. Some of the housing benefits that are available are Homeowners Disability Grant, BC Property Tax Deferment Program, Residential Tenancy Dispute Fee Waiver, BC Housing, Independent Living BC, and Seniors Supportive Housing Program. Some of the leisure benefits that are available are camping fee exemption, leisure access pass, and fishing license fee reduction. Some transportation benefits that are available are Handy Dart, Taxi Savers, BIA Rail, Disability Travel Card, Access for Flights, Disability Parking Permit, Excise Gas Tax Refund, Fuel Tax Refund, Autoplan Disability Discount, and BC Ferries Fare Reduction for disabled person and escorts. The Canada Pension Plan Disability, or simply CPPD, is the federal disability program that is available to those who have enough contributions, who are disabled, and cannot have a regular job. One of the main differences between CPPD and PWD is that CPPD is based on contributions to Canada Pension Plan and the ability to work, whereas PWD is based on the ability to complete daily living activities. An individual can receive both the CPPD and PWD benefits at the same time. However, an individual on PWD will not receive the full amount for both benefits. They will receive their full amount for CPPD and be simply topped up with the PWD up to their maximum allowable amount. For example, if a single person is approved for CPPD for $500 per month, they will receive $683.42 from PWD to bring their total income up to $1,183.42 per month. The table on the screen shows some more differences between CPPD and PWD. A big difference between the two programs is that Persons with Disabilities is the BC Provincial Disability Program governed by the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, and the Canada Pension Plan Disability Program is the federal disability program run by Service Canada. Each have their own rules and regulations regarding the amount received, additional benefits, earning exemptions, and more. Feel free to pause the video to go over the rest of the table now. For the last section of this webinar, we will briefly go over the appeal process of the application. There are several reasons why a PWD application may be denied, and some of these are the severity of the condition may be unclear. It was unclear that the disability will continue for 2 or more years. It was unclear whether help with daily activities is required. The frequency and duration of the disability is not clearly mentioned, and lacking information about limitations with daily living activities. When an applicant is denied PWD, they can either accept the decision and reapply, or they can appeal the ministry's decision by submitting a request for reconsideration package, also known as an appeal package. This is the first stage of the appeal process, and the applicant has 20 business days to submit the reconsideration. To receive a reconsideration package, the applicant must contact a local ministry office. When preparing a request for reconsideration, the applicant can add any additional information or evidence that they believe will support their case or argument. If the applicant needs additional time to complete their reconsideration, they may request an additional 10 business day extension. When a request for reconsideration is submitted, the ministry has 10 business days to make a decision and inform the applicant. If a PWD applicant is denied at the reconsideration level, they have the opportunity to proceed to the tribunal level. This is the second level of the appeal process, and the tribunal must be requested within 7 business days of receiving the decision on the reconsideration. The tribunal can either be in person, in a written appeal, or a teleconference. The choice is up to the individual. Once the ministry receives a request for a tribunal, They have 7 to 15 business days to schedule a tribunal depending on the type of tribunal requested. During the tribunal, applicants can bring new evidence in addition to the ones submitted at the reconsideration stage to support their case. Once the tribunal is held, the ministry has 5 business days to make a decision on the applicant's eligibility. To summarize the appeal process, an individual has 20 business days from when they are informed of denial to submit a request for reconsideration, with an additional 10 business day extension if needed. If the request for reconsideration is denied, the individual can either accept the decision, appeal the decision through the tribunal process, or reapply for PWD. Thank you for watching, everyone. Feel free to browse through other webinars and provide us feedback by clicking on the survey link in the description below.